as he collects more information and feels more out of how it's going. And those later streets are where the pots get even bigger. And so if you can make really good decisions on the turns and rivers where the pots are very large, then you're securing yourself a lot of value in these tournaments. And that's where Daniel has found his sort of specialization and where he feels he has an edge over the opposition. And clearly, as you can see yesterday, he won the high roller playing that way, and he's won many other tournaments playing that way, and you have to applaud.
Six bracelets. Jerome Huget raising from the small blind. Spindler calls. Flop is 9-6-5. 2 hearts. Huget first to act. This is kind of the one wild card in this game. He definitely plays a little bit more unconventional.
But he very conventionally is wearing a scarf, as we see the French players at the table, 100% of them with scarves, and a high percentage of the spectators as well. It's almost like it's
are you not a scarf guy?
No, I am. I actually own a few scarves, and I've played in scarves. I enjoy scarves. It's kind of like one of those things where I can make fun of them because I wear scarves too.
Right.
Fabrice can hear us.
Huget bets 45,000, and my guess is that Huget is probably going to bet any flop. Short of, unless he flops the nuts, he's probably betting.
And this is one of Benny's ideal situations. He's with one of the presumably weaker players at the table. It's a very wet board, and he's going to want to hang around, try to sense a little bit of weakness, and probably take it away from this guy.
I think Spindler loves it. I think Spindler hates the turn, though.
That can be a good turn, because if this guy
for Spindler,
well, sure. Spindler's in position. Huget is playing out of the small blind. The ace comes. It's a scare card to just about any pair, presumably, that Huget would have been betting to begin with.
If Huget actually had anything, right?
If he actually had anything.
Jerome makes it 75,000.
And it's one of those spots where there can be even more scare cards on the river, where Benny could just flat here again. And depending on his read on the river, or another scare card, another over card,
Benjamin calls.
He could maybe get a pair of 9s, even a pair of 10s.
Spindler calls.
Pair of 8s, 6, 7, all these sorts of hands maybe fold.
Spindler called. The blue plaque, 100,000. The red chips are 25K. The gray chips are 5K. Action on Huget.
That's a tough bluff card for Benny Spindler. Huget not slowing down. He's trying to make the pot Huget.
That's 100,000.
I avoided any of those puns.
I'm going for the easy ones. I'm not as seasoned as you are, David. So, I've got to just take the low-hanging fruit that's in front of me. I don't have the experience you have.
I figured at some point we'd have to do it.
I have no shame in being the first one. The cornier the puns, almost the more I enjoy. The older I get, the more I find I'm enjoying puns. And I remember when I was younger and I'd make fun of teachers or my parents and say those jokes are so lame. And it's just the ironic twist of fate. You're always doomed to become, that which you scoffed at, I think.
Oh, of course. So. Huget bets 100,000. The pot is now a modest 464,000. Spindler is to act, and earlier on, these guys have a little bit of history. Huget had jacks, Spindler had ace deuce, had turn 2 pair, and Huget put out a small little blocker bet. He bet like 35,000 into 260,000, and this time Spindler's going to move all in.
So he does sense the weakness here.
This bet's bigger, though. This bet is bigger. He bets 1/3 of the pot.
Spindler could have a good hand here, and this is when it's tough to play him, because he could have been hanging around there with a 5-7 or a 5-8 and maybe hit the 5 on the river. Or he could have squadouche and just be moving because he feels this player is not going to want to risk.
Do you think Spindler has it or not?
I think
against this particular player.
I think it's, I would say about 80% that Spindler doesn't have it. But there's always the chance that he could have, he could have any of these holdings that you see.
So the players at the table are all hoping. This
is the advantage for Spindler. Also, that helps him bluff because he's playing so many hands. When there are scary cards like this, he could have it. It is totally possible he could have it.
What do you do if you're Huget and you've got, oh, he calls.
No, I think he was just trying to get a read there. It was the classic sort of.
Man, that's a really close to a call.
Yeah, it is close.
That could easily be a
players,
call.
And I really don't appreciate it when players do this, and they often try to do the pump fake. And I think it's almost laughable when you do it against a pro
That's
like
I mean,
Benny.
that's forward motion. I mean, that could have easily been construed a call.
Yeah.
And he
Jerome
does
makes a
call.
call.
You win.
Yeah.
And he says you win. And Huget's got ace-7.
Yeah. So he did hit the ace on the turn.
Benjamin
Benny
has
did go
deuce
for
straight
it.
of clubs. He is actually playing the board.
Joli main, mec.
Jerome has an ace of spades, 7 of hearts, aces and
You see,
fives.
Benny
with
was
a
just
9.
hanging around trying to take it away from you. That it was his ideal situation, and
Yeah, I just felt when Huget raised pre-flop, a lot of times, I mean, he could have a big king or something, but I feel like he's got a lot of those garbage aces in his hand, and the ace comes off.
and this, yeah.
It's hard to bluff
so
that.
you were right.
It's hard to bluff the amateur.
And once someone hits the ace, that's also and especially on the turn, it's hard to bluff them off that because they're thinking this guy thinks I don't have the ace, and I have a pair of aces.
Plus, I mean, the board is wet enough.
Thank you.
I don't know. Like I said, I hate being results oriented.
Right.
And I'd love people to tweet in and let us know if you could try to remove the actual result from it. I wonder if that's a good bluff or not against this particular player. So I think against other players, you can represent the 5 a little bit more. I wonder against an amateur.
And when
the
he
story
3
you're trying to
barrels
tell.
into you, the amateur, when he 3 barrels into you on a final table of the World Series of Poker main, then typically they're pretty strong.
Yeah, and you said that Benny Spindler doesn't normally risk all his chips. Well, he's gotten to the point where he is not feared by anybody.
Well,
he has
and
7 big blinds.
And he was getting shorter. I do know that he wants to get involved with the weaker players at the table, but with a 3 high, that's a pretty low holding.
The funny thing is, I had no problem at all with calling pre-flop. I had no problem at all floating the flop because I think you can take it away on a ton of turns.
Well, right, unless it comes with an 8 or an ace, he's probably going to find a way to win the hand.
The only thing I mentioned was earlier on, Jerome Huget bet 35,000 into like 270 when he was clearly scared of the ace. This time he bet 100,000.
I know.
Right. So he was almost, because he was scared, he might have been making such a big bet so that he doesn't have, so he has to call off.
Well, I mean,
so he's basically making his decision now and playing stress-free poker.
Well, he made a more normal bet. He bet 100,000 into like 300. He bet, so it was a more, it was
a modest sort of value bet.
Exactly. It wasn't the 35,000 into 270, which was